November the 22nd, 1963. November 22nd, 1963, Steve Geisler.
My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Speakeasy members, and most welcome guests. That quote probably goes down in history as one of the most memorable quotes that we as Americans will ever remember. Tonight I want to tell you about three areas of Kennedy's life. First, I'm going to tell you about some little-known facts. Second, what I think are his major accomplishments. And thirdly, the legacy that he's left for us. Little-known facts, he was the first person to be elected to Congress, the youngest person. And that was when he was 29 years old in 1946. The second is that he was the youngest senator to ever be elected in 1952 at the very young age of 35. He was the only Catholic man to ever be elected to the presidency. He was the youngest president to ever be elected, and that was in 1960, and he was 43 years old. Another very little-known fact is that the debates were televised in 1960. He ran against Richard Milhouse Nixon. Kennedy knew how to work the TV audience. He practiced and practiced and practiced in front of the teleprompters. However, Richard Nixon did not. He was very anxious, very nervous, and it was very visible to the audience, TV audience. They say, many historians say, that is what won Kennedy the election. Because he won by the narrowest of margins. I think the only one that was closer was when Bush defeated Gore. Another little known fact is that in 1963, in June of 63, he and his wife, Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, traveled to New Ross, Ireland. And that was because that was the home of his great-great-grandfather, who immigrated to the United States in 1848. In June of 2013, the eternal flame at Arlington Cemetery at Kennedy's grave, there was a torch that was taken from that gravesite where the eternal flame, and it was taken to New Ross, Ireland. It's the first time that flame has ever left Arlington. It was taken to New Ross to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Kennedy and his wife's trip to New Ross. Some of the accomplishments was he established the Peace Corps. First person to do that. And then we had veterans, or we had volunteers go to foreign countries to help the needy, to shelter them, to feed the needy. And that still occurs today. There's been a few presidents that have gotten behind that more like Kennedy did, but no one has ever done that yet. We still have volunteers. He also wanted to see the United States have the first man on the moon. That never occurred prior to his death, but it finally did in future years. Probably one of his most noted things was he was a civil rights activist. He was probably the first president that worked at civil rights in the whole country, and especially in the South. That was a time of trials and tribulations. We know that, any of us that lived during that time. It was the Vietnam War time. There was uprising. I don't remember them all. Medgar Evers and all the other people. Some people have given speeches on that here. Probably his most noted accomplishment is that he prevented nuclear war with Russia. And they also then removed the missiles from Cuba. There's many historians that say that that one move is better than the war, First World War, us winning the Second World War, the bubonic plague, and 9/11. That's what some historians say. As far as his legacy is concerned, we probably will never know. He was a man of great promise. Tragically, we don't know what he could accomplish because his life was taken from us way too early. Taken from the country, taken from everyone. The one thing he accomplished, which is tragic, is when his funeral occurred, there was 93% of the American homes who viewed his funeral. That's a legacy. It was beamed to 23 countries in the world. 600 million people viewed that funeral. We'll never know what he accomplished, could have accomplished. However, his memory lives on. When you think about, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Madam Toastmaster.
Steve, thank you so much for your speech this evening, President Kennedy. I enjoyed it tremendously. And what I enjoyed most was that your relaxation in front of the group as you spoke with everyone, your timing, your pauses, and so forth. The information that you shared with us about President Kennedy was phenomenal. It really is interesting to hear about President Kennedy as we celebrate 50 years, well, not celebrate, acknowledge 50 years since his death. I did feel that when you gave your speech that you had a relaxed feeling that was different than the speeches that you've given before, that you're starting to feel more comfortable with the group, and that you're getting into the story that you have to tell. And the information that you conveyed about the pictures that you painted for the Kennedy debate was very good. I remember those debates. I was quite young at the time, but I do remember those. And also, I felt that it was new information for me that he created the Peace Corps. I knew about the Peace Corps, as I do, but I didn't know that he was the one that created that. So that was good information. I also feel that your objectives were met when you took pauses to enhance your story. I noticed that a couple of times you just stopped, during your speech, which I like that. So. And then the only other thing that I was going to mention, if I were going to suggest anything, I would say it's really hard for me to think of something that I would change about your speech. It was an excellent speech. Thank you very much.